Spinach and Bacon Quiche. It's gonna have a tender, flaky crust, so it'd be a really savory breakfast, quick breakfast that you can save and eat throughout the week. You can freeze the slices, keep in your freezer for about 3 months. So here we have a pre-made crust, sort of. It's a dough disc. This is going to be the base of our pie, or quiche. So I'm going to get this unwrapped. And I've got parchment here, and you'll see why that's important. You could just roll it on a floured surface, but you run the risk of it sticking or breaking when you go to peel it up. So we're going to do it on the parchment, lightly floured, and then that'll make it easier to transfer it over to our pie dish. Our pie dish is a 9-inch dish, so we're going to roll this out to roughly 12 inches at least. That'll give it room to cover the bottom up the ledge here and have some crust left for us to pinch around the sides. Get that floured up for us. Put a piece of parchment over it. And then as we roll it, we're going to turn this slightly, and that way we get an even circle as we go. Pretty good. Okay. Now we want to place it into our dish. And then gently pull up on the parchment. Avoid the temptation of pulling this off quickly. Unlike pulling off a Band-Aid, it will remove crust from your dish. Alright. And then we're going to just press that around. All right. So with this pie crust too, we're going to what's called blind bake. We're going to blind bake the pie crust, which means we're going to bake it slightly without any filling in it. One problem you can run into with blind baking is the crust can shrink or puff up too much. So we're going to be using about 2 cups of beans. You can also buy pie weights. You can buy pie weights to hold down your crust while it's baking. We've got our oven preheating to 375. We've got our pie crust rolled out, or if you bought a pre-made crust, that's perfectly fine. We can go ahead and use that. And then we've got 2 cups of beans or pie weights. And we're just going to put some parchment paper down. That. I want to dust that a little with a little flour. This is a very buttery crust. And the last time I made it, it stuck to the parchment. So I'm just going to flour that just a little bit. Put our parchment in. with our beans. Now, the beans are good because you can save those to do another pie crust at another time. You don't want to use them for eating after you've done this. This pie crust we're going to blind bake at 375 for 15 minutes. And then after 15 minutes, we're going to take the parchment and the beans out, and we're going to prick the crust with a fork and then bake it for 8 more minutes. Right, we're going to put the pie crust in the oven for 15 minutes at 375 degrees. Alright, while our crust for our quiche is baking, we need to prep our filling. So we are going to render about 6 slices of bacon. Now I'm using pre-cooked, pre-chopped bacon. If you are using full slices of bacon, you're going to need about 6 slices. You're going to cook them down till they're about this level of doneness. Pull them out, put them on a plate with paper towels. Then you're going to chop them up like this. And you're going to drain out most of the grease, reserve in a container for using at another time, but leave a little bit of grease left in the pan. We're going to use that to saute the onions and the spinach. Our bacon's been rendering for a little bit, so even though this is pre-cooked, pre-chopped bacon, you can see it's still releasing a little bit of oil, which is why I still went this route of sauteing it. I could have just put it right in the quiche, but I wanted to extract some of that lard out of there, that grease. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it on some paper towels to drain. So we have a little bit of oil left in there. We're going to saute our onions. Half an onion. Right there, half a cup, half an onion, diced up. Saute that for a minute. After about a minute of the onion cooking down a little bit, we don't want it to cook too much. We have measured out 1.5 cups of spinach, and then we chopped it up. We're going to add that in and cook that for another minute or two. At this point, my pan is pretty hot, so I'm going to turn it off. These are going to continue to cook. I'm going to place this on a trivet and put it over in our work area to get ready to assemble the quiche. Quiche has been baking for about 15 minutes. Now we want to prick the crust and bake it for about another 8 minutes. I can see it's puffed up a little in the bottom. Not a big deal there. I'm going to gently remove this. Set that to the side. And prick around. So you can see around the edges we have some good browning already. We don't want to overcook that. So we're going to put a silicone ring around the edges, just like that. You could also make one using foil. And we're going to put this back in the oven, 375 for 8 more minutes. Okay, we've blind baked our quiche crust by baking it 375 with the pie weights, pie beans in there. Then we took those out, we pricked the crust, baked for 8 more minutes, and now we're done. It's still kind of bubbling. It looks great. This is going to be a very tender and flaky crust. I'm very excited to finish this out. So with our filling. Now before we move on to our filling, we do need to reduce the temperature. Reduce the temperature down to 350 on your oven. Do it now before you forget. Right? And then we're going to slide this crust over to the side and I'm going to work on the rest of our filling. We already have our bacon, spinach, and onion all sauteed up, ready to go. So now we need to work on our eggs. For this quiche, we need 5 eggs. And we're gonna whisk those up so they're well mixed. You could also pop these into a blender. We have a cup and a quarter of half and half. Then we're gonna whisk into our 5 eggs. All right, we've got the eggs and the half and half whisked together. Then we're gonna season it with some salt and pepper. Mix those in. Now we are going to fill our crust. So the first thing we're going to add is about a cup and a half of cheese. In this case, I'm using a Colby Jack cheese. You could use pepper jack. If you like mozzarella, you could use that. Swiss cheese, just cheddar cheese, Monterey Jack cheese, whatever you like. And then we're going to mix in some of our spinach and bacon and onion. Come back in with the rest of the cheese. When we did the eggs, we didn't have to mix in too much salt. What I mixed in perfectly fine, about less than half a teaspoon, because the cheese and the bacon adds quite a bit of salt on its own. Come in with the rest of our bacon and spinach. Mix those around pretty good. Good. And then we're going to pour our egg mixture on top of that slowly, gently. It's going to be some air bubbles that it needs to fill in as it fills. This is going to be really good. Alright, the quiche is filled, it's ready to bake. We're going to bake at 350 for 40-45 minutes or until the eggs are completely set. Alright, our spinach and bacon quiche is done cooking. It looks and smells amazing. So it's been resting for 10 minutes. We're going to go ahead and cut a slice.